I was just, go, 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 get it done. It's all that counts. And he said to me, Neville, your management style's like Attila the Hun. And in some circumstances, that's great, but you need to learn to have management styles for the situation. And what he taught me was, in Planixs, it was just the two of us. We had to hire everyone, where he hired great people to build a product that one of the largest banks in the world would want to buy. The sense of achievement's huge. We all remember our first job. It was the 30th of October, 89. Walked into Arundel Street in London in my brand new Mac and my briefcase. And that was my first day. I had no money. I had a flat I couldn't pay for, like 26 years ago.
Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome to The Company You Keep. If you're building something ambitious, a business, a career, a new chapter, then you already know this. Who you surround yourself with changes everything. But most people leave their inner circle to chance. This show is about changing that on purpose. Each week, I sit down with founders, operators, creators, and leaders to unpack one thing: the relationships that shape them. Not just the shiny ones, the real ones. The colleague who would open a door when no one else would. The mentor who challenged their thinking at the right time. The friend who told them the truth when it hurt. This isn't about networking, it's about the voices we trust when the spotlight's off and the stakes are high. Because momentum is great, but the right relationships, they make it last. If you've ever thought, I'm doing this alone, this show's for you. Let's get into it. Today's episode features someone who's played a big part in my own journey, Neville Roberts. Nev is the CEO of Planixs, and before that a partner at Accenture and the CIO at Best Buy. But more than the titles, it's the people around him and how he's learned from them that make his story stand out. From early feedback that changed his leadership style to co-founding a business with someone completely different to him, Nev's career is a masterclass in how the right relationships shape the way we lead, grow, and build. Let's dive in. Nev, thank you very much for joining us today. For people who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And a brief explanation of the journey that got you to where you are today.
Sure. I'm not sure how brief I'm going to be able to be with a journey of 36 years, but Neville Roberts, I'm currently the CEO and founder of Planixs. We're, for the last 14 years, we're a fintech software company, and we're into real-time intraday liquidity. But if I take the journey all the way back, born and brought up in Liverpool, accent's just about gone, but it's just slightly there. Regular upbringing, myself, my sister, went off to university. I was fortunate enough to have my big break around that when I got into Cambridge. Read natural sciences, which for everyone who doesn't know what that means, it's maths, physics and chemistry again. And out of university ended up joining what was at the time Anderson Consulting. So they just split from Arthur Anderson to go their own way, and management consultancy, it was a new thing. Prior to that, it was IT help or mainframe adjustments and things like that. But management consultancy came around in the late 80s. And it was the buzzword. So at university, I went on a 3-day course. I think it was a Christmas of 88. And it was run by Anderson Consulting, as it was. And I was captivated. I thought it was so interesting. The fact that you didn't just see one industry, you saw as many as you possibly could. It ends up specialized now, but at the time, you saw many industries. You got involved in many areas of consultancy, IT, business, value, support, and I loved it. The case studies we did, everything. So from that, I think I applied to about 30 management consultancy firms, strategy, IT, management consultancy, so the broad remit. And I ended up with an offer from Accenture, as it is now, Anderson as it was, which was great. Had about 3 or 4, but from what I experienced, they were the ones I wanted to join. So we all remember when we had our first job and our start date. It was the 30th of October, 89. Walked into Arundel Street in London, just off Temple, in my brand new Mac and my briefcase. And that was my first day, and that's where it all started. Um,
Mac and a briefcase.
yeah, a Mac and a briefcase. Everyone else had one, by the way. So I didn't know what to do. I had no money. I had a flat I couldn't pay for, but I knew I had to wear a suit, and everyone else was. I had seen them in the autumn time wore a Mac of some description. It's not all suave now, Jack. And I don't know. I just thought I needed a briefcase, so up I turned. It's not quite the same now, but yeah, it was like 26 years ago.
Oh,
So that's how it all started from university into work.
well, so I mean, loads. Let's go back to the beginning. A couple of things you mentioned. So, university, Cambridge.
Yeah.
What was university like? What kind of person were you back then? How do you like? How would you describe someone looking in at you going to Cambridge? How would the people who met you then describe you?
How would they describe me? I think I definitely had a great time. And the work I hear these days, work's insane at Cambridge. You work all the time. It wasn't quite the same then. So I did the work, worked hard. I enjoyed it as well. So that helped. But I also did a lot of other things. I was a blues swimmer, so I did a lot of swimming. And the group I met swimming were just an absolutely fantastic group. And some of the early learnings about relationship and leadership you got from sport, I've always thought, and growing up in those 3 years through education, relationships in swimming that I had. I played other sports as well. I'm not sure you call them a sport, pool and darts and things like that, but swimming was my main sport. What would they say about me? I'd love to say they'd say I was cool and sophisticated, but probably not, Jack. I think they'd probably say I was, I did my work. I worked hard, but I knew how to enjoy myself and party. It's 3 years or 4 years of your life that is very hard to get again, if ever. But I wasn't crazy, but serious guy, probably at the time, probably knew what I was after. And hopefully my friends will say I was a good friend as well.
That was one. Is it right in my head there? So I imagine you were always competitive, always driven, always wanted to be whatever the version of successful was for you at that time.
Yes, probably all the way from early years, 6, 7, 8, because I started my swimming competitively, and I think a lot came through sport when I was 7. My sister started when she was 9. I kind of got dragged into it. Why am I doing this, Mum, Dad? But got into it then. It's an individual sport. You do relays and things, but it's really an individual sport. It's hard training. And if you're going to do all that training, we used to train for 2 hours a night, City of Liverpool, in the gym, galas all the time. If you're going to do all of that hard work, you may as well try and win. And I won some, I lost some, but that competitive spirit to win, whatever you did. And I'm not, over the top. I don't play cards with my 1-year-old grandson and have to win. But at the level I was competing at, yeah, absolutely wanted to win, and that drove all the way through my life.
And back then, would you have had a clear view about you wanted to set your own business up, you wanted to be successful in business, in a career? Would have that been clear if we'd have asked the 20-year-old Nev, or
No.
would it have just been, I want to do whatever I'm doing full tilt, I want to be competitive, I want to be successful, I'm going to give it my all?
I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. It's the latter. Give it everything you have. You get one chance. Do your best. If you do your best, you've absolutely done your best. If you've tried your hardest, that's what I tell my kids all the time. Just do your best. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I followed my sister in terms of what she did because I had no idea. She went to university. I went to university. She did chemistry. I did the same. And then she went into she joined GlaxoSmithKline, who were Glaxo at the time. So I thought, well, that's what I'll do. And I went along to her labs. She'd been working for about a year, and I was totally put off. I'm sure it's a great job, it's a great career, but I turned up to a lab. She wore a face mask, she was in a lab. She had gloves on, and she just went from mixing A to B to get C to mix with D to get E, and a great career that she had, but it just wasn't something I wanted to do. And this was just the start of the tech rise, mainframe client server, so that was the buzz as well. But no, I had no idea whatsoever. And that moment at that course I had with Anderson at the time, that's what changed me, and I thought, this is what I want to do.
So let's go on to that then. So with Anderson and then Accenture after that. And so what was your time like with that business? Everyone knows a lot of the stories about them, but actually hearing them is always good. So what was it like for you? How did you experience Anderson was it 14 years? No, you've been there longer. How long were you
it was
there
about 18 years.
What was your journey with Anderson and Accenture like?
I couldn't praise it more. I recently did an interview with Bloomberg on, it was called CEO Factories, and it believes now that CEO, or the hypothesis was CEOs now come out of the likes of McKinsey, Bain, Accenture, rather than your GE or your Dow Chemicals. And I was reflecting on it, and throughout my whole journey, I had the best fun I probably had in my career, probably within them, even though Planixs is hardware, we have some amazing fun, but at the time it was fantastic. So we had fun, we worked hard, we play hard, we made real change happen. It wasn't just a catchphrase. We brought online systems for pensions, unemployment benefits, utility companies when they were all digitizing, and it was real, and you got right at the forefront. So we had a fantastic time. The training was brilliant. So we started off, I think you started at the time with about 6 weeks training. You did 3 in the UK, then they flew you out to Chicago and you did your training there. But you were surrounded by, frankly, some of the best people around. Everyone was talented. Everyone knew what they wanted to do in terms of success. They were knowledgeable, they were committed, ambitious, and so you were surrounded by this group that were exactly the same. And every team you went on, everyone was good. And I remember the time partnership, because it was all about eventually being a partner, and it took about 10-11 years to go from start to end and be a partner, and the prize was huge, and it kept getting longer and longer away. And some point in your career, maybe after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, people wandered off and I'll try something else, it's too long. But I kept with it because it was as a private company and a partnership, looking after your own P&L, being able to ultimately do what is right for the customer. That was just great. So yeah, it was a fantastic journey, and I learned so much. In fact, when we talk about people who helped me on the journey, most of them have come or started from there.
Yeah, so a dream to talk to. Now you can do this whole podcast on your own. So tell the people that helped you along the way then. So this is all about the relationships that you build along the way become really important, and one of the single biggest factors of people's success in their career. There must have been people you met back then who you can point to immediately and think they were hugely influential or helped you, and you can probably remember those moments like they were yesterday.
I can actually, and I think one of the tricks is listen to what everyone says, filter out what you believe's the best input to you, but try and absorb everything that people say, or watch them, see how they behave, they act, the characters they are, and then learn yourself. You can't look at everyone, you can't learn from everyone, but try and find the things that are right for you. And my first experience, and I remember it, and I tell everyone this, of getting feedback that really counted, was I'd been in, and I'll call it Accenture, even though in the years gone by it was Anderson Consulting, and I'd been at Accenture about 3 years, and I was on a job. It was split between, interestingly, Cardiff and Amsterdam, and my manager was a guy called Will Aston, who's still in the industry now. And you got in Accenture, you got proper feedback, right? It wasn't just you're great and, can you improve these few things? And they told everyone the same. And he said to me, he said, Neville, he said, your management style's like Attila the Hun. And in some circumstances, that's great, but you need to learn to have management styles for the situation or the person or the job or the time you're in. And I thought about that a lot, and it was absolutely true. I was just, go, 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 get it done. It's all that counts. We have to get it live on the date, and that's it. And the 90s were macho, times, whether you were male or female. It was all about get the job done, work every hour you can. And what he taught me was that you don't have to have just one style, have many different styles to suit the occasion you're in. And that was my first real experience, and it stayed with me for a long, long time. And he thought about it. He didn't just find a checklist now, chat GBT, what do I tell someone? He thought about it, and it actually helped. But when I look back, I've been working now for like 35, 36 years, and there's probably a handful of people who have really made a difference to me. And if I kind of wheel through them in chronological order, some have overlapped. There's been some gaps, some have come back. But the first one, it was on the same project that I was on in Amsterdam. It was a chap called David Squire. And it was the first time that I'd met anyone who was bold and brave, challenged us, challenged the client. The client interactions were, they were like peer to peer. They weren't, what do you want next? And I'll just do whatever you say. They challenged them, and they had gravitas, and they had character. They were grown up. And that was the first time I'd seen anyone really like that, because probably because I was hidden from that. I was a junior guy. So I was interacting with normally just people at my level or a little bit more senior. But David was just that little bit more senior, and he had a style about him that the clients really liked. And I learned an awful lot from him. And it was my first time that I thought, in this industry, you can be a proper grown-up. You're not just doing something because a client says you need to do A, B, or C. You think for yourself, and if it's the wrong answer, you tell them, you debate with them. And it was also, just great fun to work with. He introduced, fun and humor into the job, which I liked and others liked. But I think he was the first person I met that was that proper grown up in terms of client relationships.
Do you recall, how did you meet David? Was it something you went out to go and, you heard about him, you wanted to meet him, or was it one of the, this is the project that you're on together, or he's running the project? How did that actually come about?
Every single one of these people, it was luck. I ended up being on a project. I didn't seek them out. I hadn't heard about them and thought I want to have a relationship with them. Yeah. Ultimately, that's probably the best way. But I joined this project. I remember driving down in my, it was a Peugeot 205 in red to Cardiff, because you couldn't fly there then. And I turned up and he was there. He was a manager on the program. I didn't report to him at the start, but I did in the end. And I was there for about 2 years. And I got to know him really well because about a week after I started there, they started flights from Manchester to Cardiff. And he was a Manchester office guy as well. So we used to catch this really slow, painful Gill flight or Logan Air, whoever it was, from Amsterdam to Manchester. It took about an hour and a half, and there were 6 of us on that flight every week. So I knew him through that. Obviously, we were out of town, so we had we stayed in a hotel out there. But in Amsterdam, out there, of course, great times, great fun. I knew him as inside work and outside work, and I learned a lot from him from both as well. So that's how I found him.
So you kind of stumbled upon one of the first, and then you said there's a few other people that you can almost picture now who you would point back to say were really influential along the way and helped guide you to where you've managed to get to now.
Yeah, there was one, and again, this was by chance, but my wife was having our first child, and I thought I can't be traveling all the time to Amsterdam and everywhere. So I asked if there was any projects in the Northwest, and there was, in the project I was on, we'd been doing some Oracle work. And so I knew about Oracle, I knew about their tech stack. And there was a job at Littlewoods, if you remember them. Littlewoods Pools, Littlewoods Catalog, changed their name since then, obviously. And they were modernizing their technology kind of wall to wall. And they bought this product called Retech. And Retech was underpinned by the technology of Oracle. And the team that was in place, they were all business people from Accenture. They knew retail, they knew merchandising. They didn't really have any tech people, but in the end, it was implementing a tech solution. So I got a call one day from a guy called Richard Wildman. Richard, I remember he was driving up to Liverpool, and he said, look, we understand Littlewoods, the process, everything about what they do and what they have to do, but we don't have anyone who really understands this technology platform. We want to partner with this firm as well, Retech, and build out a practice. And it sounded great. And Richard, I worked with, I'm going to say, for about 11, 12 years. He was my boss almost all the way through from manager to partner. He was one of the people that had a vote and voted me into the partnership. And he taught me, in those prime years, he taught me so many things. Obviously he was more of a retailer. I was a technology guy. I think he actually came from Selfridges, but we were an absolutely great match. He taught me, how do you create proper business value? How do you propose? How do you write contracts? The first one I wrote was just awful. How do you commercialize things? How do you build teams? And how do you bring a team along with you as well? And probably one of the things he did that no one else has really done, he gave me freedom. He really did. So we started up a retail centre in Manchester in about 97. It was incredibly successful. The Hive had about 200 people in it. We supported 30, 40 clients throughout the world on this solution. And we did hundreds of millions of pounds worth of revenue every year. And I think without that person being Richard, allowing me the freedom to do that, I wouldn't have got up to the echelons I did of being a partner. And I enjoyed it as well. It was great company too.
Was that period then? So whilst you're doing that, so you're progressing through Accenture, you're progressing towards partnership. That's that period of time when you're being successful and kind of getting moved up and up towards. Loads of people will be thinking, what is it like? What's that process like? Yeah, how do you go from being a high performer within like the ranks, as it were, to becoming a partner? And did someone coach you through it? Did someone help you through it? Like, how did it all work for you? Because there'll be loads of people who are just doing the same thing, right? Trying to navigate the same journey.
So Richard did. He wasn't the only one, but I think he made partner in 97. So he was a few years ahead of me. So he went through it, and he'd spend his time when I asked him about it and what he had to do and the timings and how far he was away. He helped, he coached me, he told me the things I had to do, think about. It wasn't just work. It was how does he help me as a career? But I think the thing I learned is ultimately it's a competition. So when I made partner, it was we were just about to IPO. Accenture doubled the partnership, and if you double the partnership, there's a certain number of partners that they'll make, right? So I think in retail in the UK it was 6, and so there was 6 slots. And through everything I'd learned over the years from him and others as well, but he coached me through it, helped me through it, and it's a competition. And ultimately, I got through, and I was a partner. And it didn't stop there, because when you're a partner, you own your P&L, you have to make decisions on your own. But he was there, all the way through. Even when I was leaving, he helped me on that journey as well. So I'd certainly put him right at the top of the tree.
Yeah, that must have been, for people who haven't been, most people will never be, it must be like a real sliding doors kind of moment, like a real, you look back now, a real like momentous point of your journey, your whole career. And at the time, it must have felt just totally remarkable and amazing to be able to kind of get to that thing that you've been working for so many years.
Well, it was, and I wonder if I'd have made it elsewhere in another industry. I'd have probably find someone like a Richard who would have helped me through. But a coincidence was there was an Oracle project in the Northwest. I wanted to be around there for a few years. Richard needed someone in technology. That was me. And so it just matched at that time. A few weeks earlier, a few weeks after, it probably wouldn't have happened. So yeah, a sliding door moment. Even though at the time you never know it existed and you never know the other path, it certainly was.
Yeah. So then partner at Accenture for a few years, and then you move on and you become CIO at Best Buy.
I do, but most of the people on this list started off in Accenture.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's probably a couple more I should talk through. One is Andy Curtis, made partner about the same time as Richard did, and probably one of the best client partners I've ever known. Unique in terms of, I remember on his 40th birthday, he invited the board of Argos to attend, and they all attended. I mean, how many people get, the board of a company to your birthday party? And from him, I saw, confidence, style, gravitas, the psychology of a customer, how they think, how you work with them. Absolutely fantastic. And he introduced me to this concept of a client tip, which I've used in the past, which was, if your fees say 100, put just a little bit of money aside, and he called it a tip. And if you've done a good job, then the client will pay you that. And if you haven't, they won't. And the psychology of it was fantastic because it needed a customer to say you haven't done a good job. So they kept feeding back to you all of the time. So I learned an awful lot from him. And at the same time, actually, one of my counseling, you had counseling partners who help you through the journey. Mark Goodyear, well known in the industry. He taught me, technology, client interaction, but he also showed me this vision into how to act on a global stage. So he had a global road. I think he was a global head of technology across the whole firm, and just how you interact with people, how you present yourselves, and how you look at parallels between work and your career and life. He was fantastic at that. So he helped me kind of grow up into ultimately having all the skills I need as a partner. So I'd add those two to the list as well.
What do you think? I mean, they all sound like people who are going to challenge you, people who high level of integrity because they all work with clients, so they've got to build good relationships and trustworthy people. But is there anything you think, looking at those people, that there's a commonality between them?
I think in a way, all of the people I talked through, with the exception of one, similar. They may not think it, but they were similar in terms of, confident, the style, the gravitas, never short of feedback, challenge. So proper challenge as well, not just that was a useless job or you could have improved here. It was proper feedback too. But I probably warmed to the people that were, growing up the firm quickly and had a certain style and swagger actually about how they worked.
You think you were drawn to them as that's the type they inspire you, that's the type of person you want to become, that's the type of role that you wanted to become in their kind of positions that they were in?
Absolutely.
Or was it something else that were they just like really almost attractive people who you just kind of like a magnet, you want to get involved with and you want to learn from them?
A bit of the latter, but mainly the former. So when I looked at them and what they did, there was 80% of what they did, I thought, if I have that, I'm going to do really, really well. And the trick is, if you can extract that 80% out or 50%, whatever it is, and add it to what you can do, and you keep adding, you're going to become a better person, more knowledgeable skills. It's the softer side that's hard. So learning about financial services or technology or cloud or AI, that's achievable for people who've been through university. It's, you learn, you know how to learn, but picking up those softer skills, so how to really interact with, clients who are paying you, they're senior, someone that can be CEOs, how to react and behave, put your point across. All of those things are absolutely key. And I certainly navigated towards people who I knew could do that.
Yeah. So you're now established in your career, I guess.
Yeah.
You've been working there for 15, 16, 17, 18, that time, and you start looking to the next type of challenge, and then you then go on to Best Buy CIO there.
I did. So I left it about 2007. Accenture was a fantastic place. It went public into, I think, 2001, and it slowly changed. I wanted to take risks. I wanted to do things that were huge and grand. And I think at the time Accenture was didn't want to take risk. It wanted to lower that barrier of risk. It had committees that looked at risk, and so we just weren't a perfect match then. They'd done extremely well, but it just wasn't for me. And then I remember I got signed onto a new job, and it was international partner for Accenture for Best Buy. And Richard helped me find that job, and I started. And I remember the first day I got a call from someone called Bob Willett, who I'd known. He was actually, believe it or not, the CEO at Littlewoods all those years ago. He was a partner in Accenture, so I knew him as well. And he's one of these people too. And he was the international CIO and he was the CIO and international CEO. And he phoned me up. He said, Mexico tomorrow, Nev. And I thought, here we go. Literally. So I flew to Mexico, and it was my first day, but from the Accenture side. And I turned up and I saw, there was 5 or 6 Accenture people there. And I thought, this is the same again. This is a big program of work. I think we're implementing SAP, and it sounds exciting. And I had a chat with Bob, and Bob said, look, you've experienced it from the consulting side. Have you ever thought about experiencing from the other side, the customer side? Yeah. And I hadn't. But what Best Buy were trying to do, the brand of Best Buy in the US is phenomenal. It's the size of a Tesco in terms of scale, but it's got it's in people's hearts and minds. It's like a John Lewis over here. People really trust the brand. It's all about customer centricity, and the customer's always right, and it's properly true with them as well. And we're expanding all over the world: Mexico, China, Turkey, Canada. We're just about to buy half of Carphone Warehouse, which was about 13 countries. And he said, well, why didn't you do it from our side? So I thought, you know what, that's a good idea. So I joined Best Buy initially as international CIO. And then after about 6 weeks, Bob said to me, he said, how about CIO? Because I've got to concentrate on my CEO job. And it was literally 6 weeks after. So in no time at all of a sudden, I'd gone from international CIO to the CIO. Had about 3,000 people that worked for us. We were hugely outsourced to Accenture. We had about 3,000 people across the world. We were transforming everything, and it was fantastic. The people from Minneapolis were just wonderful people, great, thoughtful, family oriented. And here, this Brit turns up and starts telling them what to do in terms of IT. But yeah, fantastic role. Looking at how we, push out new technology across the world.
You must have had to reinvent so much different stuff about what you've been doing previously, going from the UK and mainly Europe to going primarily in the US, but also global. Like reinvent yourself and reinvent the way that you work, but in no time, because it all happened so quickly.
Well, previously in Accenture, I had a global role from about 98 or so. So I was used to going across the world, US as well, and helping Accenture teams win work. I was quality assurance on jobs in the US and Hong Kong and Australia and so on. So I was used to that. But what was new was anything you do when you're on the industry side, everything you do, you have to live with. So if you implement SAP, the partner can leave. They've done their job, it's in and it's live. But you have to live with what you've got. So the business has to be happy. You have to maintain it. You have to bring it on. It can't stand still. You've got to think about the TCO and the cost. So it's not just about bringing a system and putting it live. It's how does it truly add value? How much does it cost? And how do I support that for 10 plus years? So you have to think a lot about that. It's not just how do I get this thing live? And that was new to me.
So that's the change then, isn't it? Like from what you used to being supply side rather than customer side. You must have people around you who helped you kind of go through that transition, offered you advice.
I did.
So there was people who helped you along that way as well.
Yeah, there was. And the one in particular is Bob Willett, who has been in and out my career since 94. So as I said, he was the Littlewood CEO going all the way back to my time in Accenture. He was a CEO, and I know you've been in the consulting industry, Jack, but how many times does a CEO come down to see you as a 25-year-old analyst? Rarely. Well, he did. He was on the top floor. He came down to the ground floor where we were, and he spent time with us. Admittedly, it was always about 9 p.m. At the end of the day, but he did. What are you doing? What difference are you making? Where are you working? What are you working on? Anything we can do to help? And then all the way through the journey, he became an Accenture partner. Probably, if not hands down, the best salesperson I've ever known. So all the sales techniques and qualities and insight you need when you're doing sales, he had them all. Did the biggest, I think, well, certainly at the time, the largest sale Accenture had ever had. It underpinned the IPO. Amazing guy. And then I rejoined him after Accenture at Best Buy. So it was kind of an easy move because I'd worked with him for a long time. But he also helped me because he was ultimately a Brit. In the US. He had a technology job, but he was also a CEO. So it was, how do you work in the US? How do you work in Minneapolis and the Minnesotans? And how do you get the best out of them? How do you work globally? All of those types of skills. And ultimately, how do you work with partners as well, whether it's Oracle or SAP? And his philosophy was always, work at the top. People who get things done are normally CEOs. So, if you're working with Oracle, you speak to Charles Phillips or Larry Ellison. If it's SAP, it's McDermott, right? He was the CEO at the time. That's where you work. Because he taught me not to just play here, but to go right to the top. So I learned that. But I learned an awful lot from him. Again, gravitas, confidence, business value, interaction skills. So they'd be on the list too.
Okay. I see a lot of these traits in you having. You do like so. I think we met. I did look before we met 13 years ago now.
Wow.
But I remember then as somebody who, kind of early stages of their career, looking up to people, looking around for people who had those kind of traits, people who could like knock down doors seemingly with a just blowing them, they blow wide open, right?
Yeah.
And can definitely see how those people then influence your career, and then you then start Planixs, which we'll get onto now, and your role changes because you're now starting a business. You're not got a business to run with or work with, and things aren't set up. So how did that, once you started Planixs, when you started thinking about Planixs, how did you think about the people you had around you and advisors? Did that then start to change?
So I probably started to talk about, think about doing something on my own in the late 90s. So Richard, as I'd previously talked about, gave me the freedom to do a lot of my own stuff. So I created a center. We effectively had our own P&L. Whilst we didn't have our own HR or finance, we did a lot of that work ourselves. So it was like a small unit. It was like a small company. So I learned a lot of that. I learned about software. And I thought one day when I've learned as much as I need to, setting up a software company, I had no idea in what, would probably be the thing I would like to do. And along this journey it would have been then about 22 years, I'd learned so much. I thought, if I can't do it now, I never, ever will. And that's when I started up Planixs, and as you know, Jack started off with Stuart Houghton. Stuart Houghton is also on the list, not because he's the same as the other people. He was kind of not me. So he's my co-founder of Planixs. We've been working really closely now for about 14 years. But I wanted to work with someone who wasn't me, someone who, I wanted to be the CEO, and I had to be the CEO. He didn't want to be the CEO. He wanted to help and support. And, he was kind of CFO, HR. I was sales, marketing, technology. So he wasn't like the other people I've talked through. He was the yin and the yang to me, and helped me enormously. He probably doesn't think he did, but he really did. The number of times we talked him through challenges or issues or problems, and he had a way around it, or he got me to think in a very clever way around what the right answer was. But when you start a company up from nothing, and I mean literally, we've told you the story about our first day. We turned up with a whiteboard and Stuart's tool belt to put up the whiteboard. That's literally all we had. That was it. And we had a bit of my money, but we started from scratch. So you're all the things you have to be, the CFO, the head of HR, think about people, premises, the lot. But I picked up an awful lot of those skills from the years, and ultimately that's why Accenture makes great CEOs. But started off Planixs, didn't know what to do. We knew we wanted to be software. And it came about, as you know, Jack, from finding a platform, and we built a platform that could do insight, real time things. Stumbled, actually, small known fact that we started building a product that could look at optimizing a company's workforce. So workforce optimization, that was the first product we did. Our first sale was to Accenture. We went back and we said, we know how you work and this will help. We sold it to Capgemini, HMRC, and others. And that was our first experience into building things ourselves. But I got help from Stuart then. I went back to some of the other people over the years. I knew them very well. They're all friends. To get input and tell them where I was up to and any advice I would lap up. To the extent that Bob Willett ended up a shareholder in Planixs as well. So he liked it so much he invested in the company. So these people can come back too. But yeah, the last 14 years has been in Planixs. It's been certainly the best experience of my life from a career. The sense of achievement is second to none. In the large firms, you can do really well, but I've always wondered, is it me? Is it the brand? What's actually winning the work here? And obviously in places like Accenture, you have great teams. But in Planixs, it was just the two of us. We had to hire everyone. Where we hired great people like you, Jack. We hired some duds as well. I won't mention them, but we did. But the sense of achievement when you win your first customer, our first big bank, Barclays in the UK, when we converted that, for two people who started a company up just a few years ago to build a product that one of the largest banks in the world and the UK would want to buy, is the sense of achievement's huge. And all of those people in some way have contributed towards that journey and learning experience.
I think it's interesting. So with Stu, he's not if you think about the other people that you mentioned before there, I would imagine quite out there, quite bold in their opinions, quite bang, knock down doors, like the showman, the person you put on stage. Stu's not that person. Knowing him how I do, he's his level of loyalty and integrity is kind of off the charts. And not that the others weren't, but he kind of has other strings to his bow that make him one of those people that will work brilliantly with you. And I think one of the things he would probably say, I'm sure I'll ask him at some point, but I bet reciprocal is one of the things about these kind of relationships. I'm sure he would say that he's learned a lot from you as well, and you learning from him. And I think when you find relationships like that where they're reciprocal and you can both grow and develop together, they become the most important and the most influential and most game changing for whatever the thing is that you're working at any point in time.
No, correct. I think everyone I've talked through I would hopefully would say that it was mutual. So, I helped them, they helped me. I think most people in the early years probably helped me more than I helped them, but it kind of has to be two-way. And if it's not, it probably won't work. But Stuart, I first met Stuart in about 2000. I think he joined Accenture in 97 or so. And he was a junior guy. He was just coming up the ranks. I think he thought I was crazy when we worked in Accenture. I was like off the scale trying to win global deals, and he was helping on the finance and PMO side. I'm sure he thought this guy is absolutely off the charts. And I know that because he has told me. But when you're setting up a company, you want different people, different types of skills and input. I wanted someone and needed someone. I didn't want to do it on my own. It's a lonely journey anyway. And I thought I want to do it with someone. And I'd known Stuart for a while. I wouldn't say I picked him, but I worked with him a lot. We talked about it a lot. And I thought, this is a person that I can do this with. And you said it, Jack, right? His integrity, his loyalty, his honesty is just off the chart. So if you start a company with someone, it's like getting married, and you have to trust them implicitly 100%. So, and I did, and he's repaid that all the way through. I would trust him with absolutely everything. And that was important. I didn't want someone out there thinking about how to spend this money, that money. He did everything right in all those areas. And when I had an issue or a challenge, I used to talk for him on the way home, sometimes for like 40 minutes. I'm sure he dreaded the phone ringing. It was, oh my God, it's Nev again. But he helped me more than he would ever think. Just, thinking things through, not always from my angle or my way. So I was still going all the way back to Will Aston in about 92, Attila the Hun. And he used to say, there's a different way here, Nev. Why don't you think about this angle or that view? Maybe a bit of a softer approach, or have you thought this, that, or the other? And he's extremely skilled, probably at Nev management, but helping me think through other angles and other ways, and invariably gets his way. So yeah, that's a different type of person, different set of skills, but equally as helpful.
So people like Stu and then Richard, Andy, Mark, and Bobby you've mentioned. What do you think those people offer you? If that's a way to think of it, what do those people offer you that other people don't?
So look, I think I think at the time, obviously, I don't know them. I don't see them all now all of the time, but I think through the journey they were friends as well. So I went to some of their weddings. Some of them came to mine. So it was friendship as well, but also they wanted to help. A lot of people don't want to help, right? They did, and they didn't ask for anything. They didn't, I didn't have to do things. I didn't have to work harder or, do anything out of the ordinary. They wanted to help me. And probably as you filter through these people, you end up with the people who want to help you. It's mutual. You can learn something. So there's probably many people out there I couldn't, so they just passed by, but I could. There's the other way around too. So I've been helping people, I'm sure, over the years. Some of them I don't even know, but I've probably shown an interest and helped them. So I think it was, when you add those things up, they offered me knowledge, they offered me experience, they wanted to help, and it was mutual.
Yeah, I think the point you make there about sometimes you don't know. But you don't know if you're helping people around you. You not really think about it. It works the same way. I imagine those people we've talked about, he didn't intentionally think, I'm going to go and meet that person to fill this gap that I need filling in my skill set or my career. You kind of ended up just meeting them. It's a bit of luck. You mentioned luck, but you make your own luck.
Yeah.
A little bit of design of the businesses that you're in. But I think that's one thing that definitely we don't think enough about.
Yeah.
If I want to do this thing next in my career, or I can't get to that promotion, where are the gaps and who can help me get there, and been designing a close circle of people around like where you want to get to, and it's reciprocal and it's honest
Yeah.
and it's all of that stuff. It's still real, but I don't think we think enough about how do we design for the place where we want to get to.
Yeah, look, it would be a perfect world if you could specify the person to help you, who they are, the role they're in, the skills they have, and then you meet them. But it doesn't work that way. All of those people, with the exception of Stuart, was just luck. But I must have met thousands of people over those years, and whilst there's only 5 or 6, that's still probably a high number. Stuart, I wanted to work with, but I wanted someone who had that skill set and approach and way. And if you're trying to find that person to start your own company, you wait a long time if it's just luck. So yeah.
So I'm gonna go a little bit kind of go out of the detail now. Then so back to Nev, 20 years old, going to Cambridge or whatever it is, 19, 20 years old. You've done, obviously been mega successful in your career, all the different things that you've done, and the list is pretty long and pretty, but knowing you, I think you would always be going, yeah, I've got here, but actually I really wanted to be up there. What would you tell a young Neville Roberts going to Cambridge? What advice would you give them if you were going to do anything different from what you've done today? What would you do differently?
Keep trying. Well, there's many things. Work hard, but working hard isn't the only thing that counts. You've got to be clever about how you work. Work with and keep close to the right people. It's not just the people I talked about, but others as well, because I could probably extend this group to about 20, 30 plus. Have no fear, and by that I mean a cat can talk to a queen, right? So if there's a CEO and you're a junior person, going all the way back to Littlewoods and Bob, he used to talk to us, but we used to talk to him as well. So have no fear. If you want to speak to a CEO or CFO, speak to them, write to them, talk to them, seek them out. You'll be amazed at how receptive they probably are. I am. So you'll be. So I'd say don't have any fear. Be bold. I like taking risks. I try and take calculated risks, but don't be afraid to take those risks. If there's one thing I would have liked to have done in my career that I would have told myself when I was 21, it's, run your own company when you were younger. So you've got more time and you can afford to fail. I'm not saying you have to fail, but failure helps as well. It helps you learn, but do it earlier. As you know, Jack, I've got 4 kids, a wife. I had a lot of outgoings for a number of years, and so I couldn't do it that early. And I wanted to learn as well. But ultimately, if you're that way inclined, because it's stressful and you have to enjoy it, be bold and brave and do it as early as you possibly can, and make decisions. So many times I have people, they tell me their advice is A, B, or C, and I could sit there forever thinking, oh, which one is it? Is it A, B, or C? You're gonna, one person will be happy and 2 won't, or even if you choose D, they're all unhappy. But you have to make decisions. The best decision is the one you make at the time, and hopefully you get them more right than wrong. But don't prevaricate, don't overthink things, and I'd probably tell that to myself. Would I have listened? You know what? I probably would. I think I probably would. I hope I would have.
Yeah, good. One thing, just do you think that the people that you mentioned, do you think they know how high a regard you hold them
in? Some of them, I would hope so. I'd think so. But do you ever really tell them? Do you sit down and say that was a remarkable journey? Thank you very much. This is all I've learned. You don't. What tends to happen is you work with them, you drift apart a bit, and then you may see them once every few years or so, and then it's not appropriate. It's not the time to do it. Do they think that? I think most of them would. If you were to ask them who did you influence in your career, I'd hope I was on the list, but you never know.
Well, hopefully, if they're listening to this, they will do. They will do now. I mean, thank you so much for spending a bit of time talking about all this stuff. There's loads of more questions, and I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours. But I really, really appreciate giving me your time. For me, you're one of these people who kind of set a fire in me and putting me in the direction where I wanted to go. So that's why I wanted you on as one of the absolute rock stars at the beginning of the of this series.
No, sure. And you know what? If they are listening to this now, or if I forward it to them, if I'm bold enough to do that, I think I'd just like to say thanks, because you don't have to do it. It's something that you give to others to help them in their career. You may get something out of it because the program is more successful and so on, but it takes time and energy and effort, and relationships are, they're not free. So I'd say thanks for all the help through all the years, and you've turned me into this probably rather shy analyst at 21 all the way through to partner and global CIO and CEO. So yeah.
Great. If for anyone watching this or listening, people want to get in touch, where can people find you? What's the best way for them to find out more what's going on with Planixs as well?
The best way, so look at our website, planixs.com. That's planixs.com. And I'm neville.roberts at planixs.com. And I do read every email, by the way.
Very good.
I do read every email.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been great talking.
No problem, Jack. Thank you.